Well, it being New Year's, I suppose that some of you have made New Year's resolutions, and others will be doing it today, no doubt. I imagine that healthier eating is high on the list of menus. There's something about the sugar glut of December that makes that resolution downright welcome. And a lot of people must start exercising in January, judging by the crowded gyms at that time of year. And some of you will no doubt be looking for a new job or building new career skills. Some will be trying new tactics with children or spouses or parents. Families are such crucibles of learning. Some of you have resolved to ditch an addiction, and more power to you for that brave decision. Dealing with our addictions is some of the hardest inner work we do. Some of you perhaps have resolutions that relate to the topic of the morning's sermon. You'd like to feel more serene or more secure or experience more peace of mind. Even if you didn't actually make those resolutions, I bet you might have. Most of us feel awfully harried in this society right now. These are certainly things I've wanted and worked for and thought about and wished about over the years and thought quite a lot about. And here are 3 conclusions that I've come to. First of all, there is no such thing as security in life. And until you realize that, you will never come close to having the other 2. Secondly, serenity, that is to say the unwillingness to be disturbed, is a mixed blessing and should only be attempted in moderation. Thirdly, peace of mind is a worthy goal, but a difficult one. So security, that security that doesn't really exist. It's the feeling of being safe and in control, and it's a nice feeling, and we all need at least some of security. Most of us continually seek more sense of safety and being in control. Some of us have to deal severely with ourselves to take even the most sensible risks. We are so craving of security. Our search for security and control begins soon after birth, when we discover that our cry will bring someone to attend to our needs. It's an important part of our lives. It continues through a childhood of security blankets, manipulating our parents, and learning the things that we see or are told we will need to know to have some sense of control over our lives. Take somebody's sense of security and control away from them, and they are likely to be very stressed out. We all need a little security. We need it to be happy, to be productive, to be creative. At least most of us do. There's a story about F. Scott Fitzgerald, the writer, who returned a large advance to his publisher saying, "I find it impossible to write with security staring me in the face." F. Scott Fitzgerald might have lived more comfortably if he had realized more deeply that security is assisted by money, but it is not created by money. Indeed, complete security and control over one's life can only be assisted, never guaranteed. You can eat right and exercise a lot and still have a heart attack at the age of 48. You can bring every ounce of wisdom and self-discipline you have to parent your kids. They might still get in trouble. You can take every available precaution and still get pregnant or get AIDS. Defensive drivers lessen their chances of being in an accident, but never eliminate them. Careful, productive workers are sometimes fired. Armed citizens are frequently robbed. Staying on the right side of the tracks only helps you stay out of trouble. In short, there is no fortress so high as to keep out the bad guys, no lifestyle so healthy as to guarantee health, and no actions that can assure love. There is no security. We are not in control. We do the best we can. The fact that no fortress can keep out the bad guys does not mean that you might as well leave your door open to every thief that walks by. There are plenty of precautions to take, just no guarantees that they'll always work. And if we don't remember that all the time, we will overdo our precautions and limit our lives. It's sensible to lock up your house when you leave it. But if you're not willing to even open a window in the summer to let the fresh air in as your neighbors do, then your need for security has started to make your life miserable. Parents, of course, want and need to keep their children safe. But if they're so nervous about the safety of their children, they won't let them walk to school with the other kids or ever be out of their sight in a public place, how will their children ever grow up and learn their independence? There's another risk in the quest for security, and that is that we'll begin to assume that since we have done all the prudent things, we deserve to have or create complete control over our lives. And then what happens when we discover that we don't have that control? Then we have not only to deal with the aftermath of the fire or the firing or the illness or the divorce, but we will feel angry at God or universe or life or the firemen for disturbing the security we thought we had guaranteed to ourselves. We'll tell ourselves needless, painful things about how we must have done something wrong, how we must have been guilty somehow to cause this misfortune, and then we suffer twice the agony of being out of control, the natural consequences, whatever they are, and the consequences of our agonizing about how we should somehow have been able to avoid this. For all the truth there might be in our recriminations, though, the larger truth is that fires happen, people get laid off, people get sick, relationships break up, and security is an illusion. When we know that, we suffer less. A third consequence of our all-out quest for security is that it can limit our compassion. If we tell ourselves that we are in control of our lives and because of our goodness and our diligence we will never get sick or lose our jobs, it will be hard for us to be compassionate with someone who has gotten sick or lost their job. Because in order to keep our own worldview going in the face of their suffering, we will have to find a way to blame them. That way we know it won't ever happen to us. We find ourselves asking questions that sound suspiciously to our friends like, "So what did you do to deserve this?" And saying things to the unfortunates in society that sound like, "Well, you made this bed, now lie in it." But the control that those attitudes presuppose is an illusion. And sooner or later, most people discover that for themselves. And then they discover their compassion for others. So security and its needs are best understood as an illusion, even as we take prudent steps to keep ourselves safe. The quest for inappropriate amounts of security in our lives can damage us, limit us, damage others, and limit our relationships with them. We live best if we learn to live with the knowledge that ultimately we are not in control. Now, as to serenity, that calm, unruffled, unconflicted, peaceful feeling, it does sound wonderful, doesn't it? Countless books have been written, lectures lectured, sermons preached on how to attain this elusive state of serenity. Unitarian minister of the 1950s, the Reverend A. Powell Davies, writes of receiving an advertisement, this was so long ago he called it a multigraph, promising serenity, as, quote, for $1 a year. It seemed like a bargain, and in case I did not have $1, the agency would promptly send me a little cardboard bank in which I could save $1 up a dime at a time. Perhaps it was the thoughtfulness of this arrangement that predisposed me to read the entire communication. And this is what I found, that I can know exactly what to do in every situation, how to do it perfectly, for God in the midst of me will be my unfailing intelligence. That is to say, he will be, if I send this institution $1 a year. Davis goes on to say that he cites this example to show that our quest for serenity is often made in the face of ridiculous presuppositions, like that serenity is always a good thing, for instance, and that its attainment should be easy. Both of these are incorrect. Serenity, that utter peacefulness of the undisturbable, unconflicted soul is, according to Davies, not a good thing at all. He equates serenity with quietism, the unwillingness to be disturbed. He does not believe that quietism is compatible with the human life. Conflict, after all, is how we learn and grow and connect to other human beings. If we are unwilling to feel badly about what's going on around us, we will never do anything about it. The old TV series Star Trek made this point many times. In a classic show whose theme was repeated over and over in the turbulent 1960s, the crew of the Enterprise would stumble across a planet whose inhabitants had chosen total serenity as a lifestyle, or they would discover a spore that caused total contentment, or a meditation practice that worked so well as to be addictive. And most of the crew would then succumb to the temptation to serenity, start sitting around, blissing out and doing nothing, and they would have to be rescued by Captain Kirk and Mr. Spock, who always remembered, at least by the end of the hour, that the mission of the Enterprise, to go where no man has gone before, is by nature fraught with conflict, danger, hard decisions, and excitement, and that it is by these things, not by serenity, that the race learns and grows and increases the force of good in the universe. No one was a better example of this, actually, than A. Powell Davies himself, who was an enormously popular preacher in Washington, D.C. in the 1950s. So popular that people gathered by the hundreds in satellite locations to sit in cold auditoriums and listen to his preaching by a primitive phone hookup because his church was standing room only. A. Powell Davies' sermons were so highly thought of that they were excerpted in the Washington Post on Monday morning, if you can believe that. A. Powell Davies could just rest on his laurels and cultivate peacefulness and serenity, but what instead did he do? Well, he was so disturbed by Senator Joseph McCarthy's shenanigans, so convinced that they could destroy democracy, that he took the senator on. He was one of the first to do so. He suffered the consequences of being labeled a communist for his pains, and he went on fighting. No serenity here. But his courage paved the way for others to begin to fight back against that particular demagoguery. McCarthy was defeated in the end, and A. Powell Davies died at the age of 55. There is no security in life. Goodness or worth doesn't guarantee anything. And as for serenity, well, let's just say that attractive as it sometimes is, it's not the only value in life and should never be our only goal. Now, you may very well complain here that I've set up something of a straw dog to burn by defining serenity, which we usually think of as in a positive light, in such a negative way. I have defined serenity as quietism, the unwillingness to be disturbed even by disturbing things. It does have other meaning in the dictionary, such as the ability to meet adversity with equanimity. But for the sake of this sermon, I've drawn a distinction which isn't really in the dictionary between serenity and peace of mind. And once you see the point I'm making, you're more than welcome to forget the definitions I'm working with. Go back to your positive feelings about the word serenity. Peace of mind. Now, once again, this isn't in the dictionary, but I don't know why not, because to me, very strongly, peace of mind has an ethical dimension that is missing in the word serenity. Peace of mind implies that one is happy with one's choices, has engaged the world and done one's bit and found contentment with that work and those choices. Peace of mind doesn't come from sending one's dimes to quacks, or from finding the perfect form of meditation, or from avoiding the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Peace of mind comes from living a real life, making peace with its conflicts, and discovering that you're strong enough to get through what you have to get through. Anyway, that's my definition. So peace of mind, then, unlike security and serenity, I take to be an unmitigated good. It's not easy to attain, but it is worth the effort. How to begin? Well, researchers at Duke University interviewed people about characteristics that give them peace of mind. As a result, they have concluded that peace of mind, which is of course not something you either have or you don't have, but something you have in a smaller or larger measure, is something that we can all work on. Here's what they found. They found that people who report general peace of mind are trusting rather than hostile or suspicious. They don't go looking for trouble, in other words. They assume the best of others until they are shown otherwise. And of course, that sometimes means that others give them their best. Also, people who report high peace of mind live in the present. They find their happiness and satisfaction there or here, rather than in memories of the past or hopes or dreams for the future. So Buddhism promotes peace of mind. Furthermore, they live with the present that really is. They don't indulge in denial, and they live with themselves as they really are. Their plans are realistic. They don't make excuses for themselves. They don't berate themselves. Self-acceptance is important for peace of mind. Thirdly, they choose their battles carefully. They accept what they can't change, although they also change what they can. However, one more important characteristic of people who report peace of mind is that they take pains to be moral. They take pains to do what they think is right, to obey the law, to be good to others. Peace of mind comes from feeling that one is a good person who has done one's best. Peace of mind is enhanced, by the way, they found very strongly by group belonging, by friends, by social networks, and by strong family relationships. These relationships help us to be realistic about our hopes and dreams. They nurture us when we falter and need help. They also keep us from feeling especially picked on when we are faced with adversity, for when we are in groups, we discover that others face even harder tasks than we face. The importance of community is one of the major reasons that religious groups, whatever their theology, bring peace of mind to their members as they do. Your being here in this place is an important step towards peace of mind. It's a lifetime prescription, especially for those of us who didn't get a good dose of love and security in our childhoods, but it's worth the pursuit. To be trusting and trustworthy, realistic and dependable, connected to others, able to live happily in the present, and willing to do the right thing are all the conditions which will enhance our lives as we pursue our quest for peace of mind. So unlike the futile quest for security or the questionable quest for serenity, I can recommend to you wholeheartedly that you pursue peace of mind. You'll be the better for it, and so will we all.